Welcome back to our program, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we invite professionals in their fields to come along and educate and inspire the community to live more healthily, feel more balanced and truly live a lifestyle they love. Our first guest is Dr. Zara Chelik, our integrative health and wellness expert, and she's back with us today to talk about eliminating fatigue. So welcome, Zara.
Thank you.
Is fatigue actually feeling tired?
It's actually more than that. So usually with fatigue, tiredness is you can get enough sleep and it can resolve itself. With fatigue, however, that's not necessarily is the case. When someone experiences fatigue, it can indicate and give a message, convey a message about something deeper than tiredness going on in the body, something more significant going on in the body. It could be from a hormonal issue, such as hypothalamic pituitary axis dysfunction. It is like an orchestra, right? The hormones communicate like an orchestra. And if something's out of whack, the whole orchestra doesn't sound quite great. So it's similar to that, So the hormones communicate in a nice orchestra, if you like. And when there is a disruption in that, and that disruption is like the hypothalamic pituitary axis dysfunction, and there's also adrenals in there as well. So the really correct name for that is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction. And that can usually come along with chronic and long-term stress, for example. Especially if the stress has been there for a long time. It could be a trauma, again, a perceived trauma. And it can be initiated from there. And if it is not resolved, it can lead to more health issues. So we want to make sure and let our viewers know that when you are experiencing something more than tiredness, and doesn't matter how much sleep you're getting, you're still not feeling quite right, the energy is less or depleted, then consult your healthcare practitioner. Get help. Get help where you get to find out exactly the root cause of your fatigue. It could be that hormonal factor. It could be an iron deficiency. It could be more. It could be also that person is not enjoying life. Again, that whole perceived, feeling the state of depression.
Would that be like chronic fatigue, or what's termed chronic fatigue?
Yeah, so usually in our society, people refer to that as chronic fatigue. Absolutely, you're right. But the correct terminology for it is it's a hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction. So it's a dysfunction in our communication of the hormones. So it can usually happen and come on with maybe a perceived trauma, or high stress levels can lead to the interruption of the flow of energy in the cells, within the cells, and in this case, in the endocrine system. So, stress is chronic and it hasn't been attended and it hasn't been resolved. It can lead to that chronic fatigue. So the individual can feel really that lack of energy, that fatigue, and they can usually stimulate themselves with stimulants such as sugar or caffeine or sugary drinks and so forth to really push themselves to get through the day or start their day. The only problem with that though, we can push our adrenals to a limit where they're not able to produce that cortisol and adrenaline to when we need it most, which is in a stressful, real threat situations. I find with the modern world, particularly with the language that we associate with our day-to-day tasks, can create that internal sort of language, and internal biochemistry can adapt to it, and the hormones can be interrupted that way, and the communication in the hormones can be altered, and then that can lead to a stress as well. So I find in the modern world, again, things are on the go. Multiple screens going on. People put so much pressure on themselves, and there's also pressure it's expected externally as well. So people trying to really please and fit in and meet deadlines, right? So they can really push themselves. And to really get through the day, they can go to the stimulants and have the caffeine, have the sugar, to really get the tasks complete right. What happens though the whole physiology is giving feedback to us and we're ignoring it. So the biochemistry is not functioning well, and the physiology is giving feedback to let us know through fatigue that things are not doing well in the body. So rather than listening to the body's needs, we tend to go to those stimulants and to push ourselves to produce the deadline. But down the track, it can have more significant impact on our health and well-being and our energy levels. So I encourage people, once they know they fatigue and they're not, they don't have the energy they used to really stop and pay attention to the body and the symptoms, because symptoms is the way body communicating to us to let us know something isn't right. So once we know we are fatigued or we're not producing that outcome or the energy isn't the same, go deeper. What has changed? What can you do to support the body? Because it is telling you, it's giving you a message. What can you do to support that whole HPA axis dysfunction and reverse that as soon as you can, because it becomes a bigger problem in the future. So certain things could be such as, lifestyle factors play a big role. Remember I talked about the whole perceived stress or the language that we use and we create that internal stress. Could the individual work on that? Instead of saying, I have to, can we use more of the I get tos and have more gratitude around things that we do day to day?
So, Zara, if there was a couple of simple tips that the viewers could take with them today, then what would they be?
Yeah, sure. So, it's something simple as our lifestyle. One of them could be drinking enough water, enough hydration for our cells. So our cells are looking more like grapes, not like sultanas. So the other thing is starting our day. Instead of starting a day with a coffee or caffeine, could we instead invest in our health and well-being and make a nice smoothie that is not sugar-based? Can we go to bed earlier and have that enough sleep? Because sleep is really what helps our body to heal itself by itself and get that balance into the body again. So these are the certain things we can start implementing: our sleep and having a nice sleep ritual, having good time, a good bedtime ritual to have that quality sleep. Switching our electronics earlier, maybe like 2 hours, say, earlier than we go to bed, to take some time to, get into our body, connect with the body, and also to reward ourselves with something before we go to bed. Create that nice environment in your bedroom where it is inviting, it is calming, it is grounding. So that could be another thing that could really help our audience anyone's experiencing fatigue, to really invest and reverse, or even just boost our energy levels in general. That sleep is crucial.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And for more information on Dr. Zara Celik and eliminating fatigue, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Dr. Zara will be back next time with us talking about stress management. Now we'll go to break and be back after the break with more amazing guests and topics. Welcome back, and our next guest is Helen Mack, back with us in the series of optimising outcomes, and today she's talking about creating clarity. So clarity, Helen, that's a really interesting one. Can you tell us a bit more about that? I'm sure everybody would love to have clarity in life.
It's difficult, isn't it, Linda? I think sometimes we all feel like we're wandering around in a haze trying to work out where we're going to end up. So creating clarity is obviously a key piece of optimising outcomes. And I love the clarity piece because it has such power. There's real power in getting clear about your goals, your expectations of yourself and others, and your communication of those expectations to all of the people involved. So the power of clarity is that it helps us communicate to others what we are planning to do, how we're going to do it, and including how they can support us. Remember our What's Possible conversation from session 1. And so it enables everybody who's involved to kind of get on board, whether that's you and your family, your business, your community, or some not-for-profit organisation or charity that you're involved in, whatever part of your life that you want to get optimised outcomes from, getting clear about it is a very critical part of the process.
So how would they go about, can you explain a bit more about clarity and how we see things?
Beautiful. So I think there's 4 layers or 4 ways in which we go through to get to a position of clarity. The first is muddy. So this is literally when you're stuck. Like if you're trying to walk through a river and your boots are stuck, you might end up leaving your boots behind, or you're certainly going to end up in a mess. So muddy is a stage where you think you know where you want to go, but you're kind of stuck where you are now. And the only way to get unstuck is to make some kind of massive movement. So if you're stuck in mud, you can't just kind of wriggle forward. You've really got to push yourself out. Now, the bad news for people is that sometimes that means some kind of disagreement, some kind of blow up, because something big has to shift to get out of the mud. The second step is cloudy. So this is like trying to swim in a river where there's so much stuff in the water, so many particles in the water that you can't see where you're going. You're likely to bump into things, accidents can happen. So that the point around going from muddy to cloudy is we need to wash that through and make sure that we're focusing on the tiny points of clarity that we've got and bring those together so that we can push away the obstacles, the dirt, the stuff that's hanging around. Then we move to the third stage, which is clear. And clear sounds like it's the end of the journey, but it's the start of the clarity piece. So clear is, I now know where I am, I know where I'm going, and I can ask all of those what's possible questions that we talked about in the first session, as well as what's the best possible outcome for me now. So clear is great, but then there's one more step. If we can get to crystal, then we're really cooking. So there's 2 benefits about being crystal clear about something. And you know a lot about this, Linda, so I know I'm right in your space. With 2 elements of crystal. If you can get to crystal clear, then it creates a resonance. It creates an energy that attracts into your world the support that you need, the help that you need, and things just become much easier. And the second thing about crystal clear is that if you shine a light through crystal, it sparkles into a million different colours, you know, all of the rainbows sort of thing. And so that means you have more options and more colour, more brightness in the ability to achieve your goal. So they're the 4 steps. We need to identify where we are and then take action to get us to the next level up, ideally aiming for that crystal clear at the top.
So that brings up a lot of questions for people, doesn't it? How do I get clear? How do I do that?
Yeah. So I think that there's 6 questions that we need to ask ourselves, and these are not new. Everyone's asked these questions in various circumstances before, but if you've got the clarity lens looking at these questions, we need to ask what I call the 5 W's and the H. So why, what, when, where, who, how.
Helen, can you tell us a little bit more about the power of those questions?
Excellent question, Linda. So the thing about those questions is that regardless of your goal, if you get everyone involved in that goal to answer all of those questions, then you'll have people enrolled in the process and they'll know how to support you or what their part of it is. So let's go through a couple of different examples. So the first question that you need to ask yourself or others involved is why. So this is actually the purpose question, which can actually be a very deep, long conversation about the purpose of why am I doing this. But at a lighter level, it's simply, why is this important to me now? Why do I want to take this on? Why is it going to be important to me in my life or in the life of the other people in my world? So the why question for yourself and for others is the important pivotal starting point. So then we go, why, what? What am I going to do? What is the outcome that I'm after? And what will be the benefit to myself or to whoever else in my life that it involves? So if it's a health goal, it might just be me, but the what might have a long-term ramification or benefit to my family or my community, etc. So why, what, when? So when is an important one in terms of the timeline. Is it urgent, has to be done now, rally people around and get going? Or is it something that's a longer term plan, which gives other people time to become involved, time to get educated, time to start learning how they're going to be part of this process? So the when is around timeline and urgency. So we've got what, why, what, when. The next one is who, which is who am I going to need on my team? So if you remember my story from the first session around my late husband's illness, the challenge of that was, who do we need to get involved? And so we got friends and family at various levels. We had different medical teams. It was really about bringing a team around us to take us together on this journey. So we needed to know the who's. And then you need to enroll those people, engage them, make sure that they're as excited and interested in your goal as you are. Those great supporters can make a big difference to whether you achieve that or not. Then we have where, which is it all going to happen where I am now? Does it mean me having to move? And there's been some very interesting moves in people's businesses and lives in recent times. And so you can set a goal for here, or you can set a goal for over there. I'm going to do this where. I'm going to, once I've moved over there, I'm going to be able to do this in this new location. Or is it a transitory thing? So my where at the moment is all about working from anywhere. I want to make sure in my coaching that I can reach my people wherever I am. And so that means I can live my lifestyle while still making a difference to individuals. So my where at the moment is anywhere in the world, as long as I've got internet coverage. And then the final step is how. And the how is all about, what processes am I going to use? What steps am I going to take? How do I do this thing? Do I do it alone? Do I do it within a group, in a company, in a community? How do I want to make this happen? And the most important first step of that is, what's the best first step to get the best possible outcome?
Thank you, Helen. And for more about Helen Mack, we'll be back next time in the third in the series about optimising outcomes, and it's maximising our momentum. In the meantime, please go to her webpage and on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au for more information. And we'll see you after the break with another guest in the series. Welcome back, and now we have Steve Hall back with us as part of the series on living a life of value and meaning. And today's topic is feeling at home. Welcome back, Steve.
Thanks, Linda. It's wonderful to be here again.
And today you're talking about feeling at home. So how important is it to feel at home?
Linda, it's so important, and I love this topic because it sums up in a feeling, I think. It's what I think of as home feels like. Home is a sense of belonging. You know, you really identify with where you are, and you know, it's the core of our being. You know, we've learnt who we are and why that's important, but it's also important to understand where we fit in, where we belong, where we feel at home. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly the home you grew up in, but you need to feel at home somewhere, so it's hugely important.
And why is it important in today's world, do you feel?
Well, the world is changing, but Australia, I see that changing as well. You know, so much of Australia is a multicultural society, so it means a lot of people have left a land and a home somewhere else on a different continent to be here. That's step one. But now, you know, home ownership is something that is more like an investment and a way to grow an income at the same time and set yourself up for the future and all that. So home is no longer a house that you move into when you're young and you first get married and you keep building extensions on and it grows over decades. Now it's like we're more like hermit crabs, and we, you know, get a shell, and once we outgrow it, we move to another one and upgrade, and so it goes. So we can sort of lose that connection with where we might have felt we belonged, because our parents, they probably gave that sense of home to us. And when you go home, it's like, wow, there's a feeling to it. But later on in life, when you get to middle age or older, you know, your parents sooner or later are going to pass away, and you'll be challenged. And it's like, you could be searching for meaning and a belonging, and something's missing, you're not sure what, and it's this connection, this feeling of home. So it's really important that we've got somewhere we can identify with, as well as identify who we are. And that goes full circle. You know, you learn who you are as a person, discover what your values are, and that you're living your values, you get your identity and you understand who you are. But now you need to have a sense of belonging with it. So when you've got those values and you incorporate them every day into your everyday life, and that could be something like, a value could be having fun, or a value could be connecting with other people. Once you understand what your values are, you know, your top 5 or 10 values, you bring them into your life all the time, and you've got to protect them with a we call it a boundary, but it's like understanding what makes you you. And so then you can disassociate yourself with any drama going on in life. You don't take on all the drama that's happening around you. You know who you are, and you can look at it and you can feel separate to it. It's like, I understand who I am now. There's drama there, there's someone in trouble. I can help them, but I don't have to get involved. I don't have to wear and take the responsibility of everything that's going on. I just take what's in my control. So doing that creates a sense of home in yourself. You start understanding who you are. And when you know that, you feel a lot more powerful, a lot more stable in life. And so no longer do you need somewhere like a home to identify with so that you belong there. It's like all of a sudden you can be in the middle of anywhere in the world, in the middle of any drama going on around you, and you'll feel a little bit more strong and calm in who you are, and you will have a sense of being at home. You've got all the memories that you're brought up with, all those lovely memories and emotions. You'll think of people that made you feel that way, but you will feel at home no matter where you are. It's like you're carrying it around with you. So it's very important.
Well, it's so important too, because so many people rent.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a home base that they could call their home.
Yeah.
You know, once you have to move house, it's like creating that new home, isn't it?
Exactly, and more people are renting nowadays for many different reasons, but it's like, isn't it so good to know that doesn't matter where you are, what situation you're in, that you're going to feel at home no matter where you are. Like, it's really, really good way of living your life and feeling that certainty and sense of power. It's, I think we all need that.
And so what would be the thing you could say for our viewers that we get, one thing that they could do just to help themselves feel at home with themselves?
And this is the fun advice. You know, I don't like giving advice that's onerous or hard, you know, that people go, oh, I have to do that, like dieting, you know, you've got to stop doing something. The advice for feeling at home is do what you love, you know, which are your values. What you really value doing are the things that you love to do naturally, you want to experience all the time. So make sure you live more in accordance with what you love yourself and bring it to life. You are important, invest in yourself, make sure you do those things, get a list of your values, sort it out. I can't recommend that highly enough. And do one of them every day, or all 10 every day, and watch your life explode. You know, you become very happy, very centered in who you are, and it's such fun to tick those things off at the end of every day going, I really have done stuff for me. It's really important to bring the best version of yourself out in life, and this is how you do it.
So thanks for joining us for this series. It's wonderful to have spent that time and get all of these valuable tips for our viewers. And we'll finish the show for today and we'll see you next time. So if you have any more information on Steve Hall and living a life of value and meaning, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And we'll see you next week.